Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight we have breaking news as we come on the air. The stunning death of an actor from The Cosby Show, Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo Huxtable, swept away by a strong current. The new information as we begin tonight, authorities say the actor drowned, reportedly while on vacation with his family in Costa Rica. He was swimming when they say he got caught up in a current and was pulled deeper out to sea. Tonight, the tributes now pouring in. Also tonight, the Delta passenger jet had a close call with a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber. The Delta pilot saying he was forced to make a sudden hard turn. Tonight, passengers described the plane on its side. They could see the ground. Tonight, the life-threatening heat, more than 90 billion under heat alerts at this hour in New York City. The high 90s by week's end. It'll feel above 100. And the storms tonight across several states moving east. The rescue this evening, a woman found clinging to a tree. Ginger Z standing by with the forecast. Just in tonight, the disturbing new video obtained by TMZ showing the moment police say a driver intentionally plowed into a crowd. What led to this moment? And authorities now say it was a miracle. No one was killed. Tonight, after President Trump told the Attorney General that the Justice Department should release some of the grand jury testimony in the Epstein case, the White House tonight is asked why not release the full Epstein files. Tonight, in upstate New York, the father who reported his 9-year-old girl was kidnapped, leading to an Amber Alert. Tonight here, the sudden turn in this case and the little girl's last call to her mother. The horrific images of fighter jet crashing into a school, at least 20 people killed, many of them children, and students rushing to help. Tonight, Israel expanding its operation into Gaza, dozens of Palestinians reportedly killed while seeking aid. Just days after the church the late Pope Francis would call daily was hit as well. Back in the U.S., the deadly shooting of the top college football crew, just 18 years old. He was a freshman. Tonight we remember a well-known actor who appeared in the shows. The 14-month-old boy stealing a show. From BBC World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Political skills recent history from Russia investigation. She claims after Donald Trump won the 26th president, Obama official ministry my campaign to defend him. The director spoke on Sunday Morning Futures.
We had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to.
As now, Fox contributor Mark Thiessen, good morning to you. Mark, what is new in all these documents, this blitz of documents released Friday?
Yeah, so this is really very important to get to the bottom of this, because this is one of the worst political scandals of our lifetime. We spent 2 years and tens of millions of dollars investigating what turned out to be a conspiracy theory, which is that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election. And it turned out it wasn't true, and there were a lot of Democrats who were pushing this. A lot of people in the media were pushing it, but what was most insidious were the people in the intelligence community who would basically were telling the American people a pernicious lie, which is you can't. But we've seen secret intelligence that's just the president conspiring with Russia to steal the election, and it wasn't true. Brennan was one of the worst people involved in this. He called Trump a traitor, said he committed treason, that he was an agent of the Russian regime, and this is really bad because it calls into question the intelligence community's credibility. And so we got to get to the bottom of who did this, who was behind it, and find out why and call them out.
You know, Democrats in the intelligence community and who work on intel issues, there's nothing to see here. This is all just more on something we've already heard 100 times. Here's Jim. Let's take a listen.
What you saw from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was not just a lie, but a very dangerous lie, because when you start throwing around language like sedition and treason, somebody's going to get hurt.
What's my...
I'm sorry, John Brennan accused Donald Trump of treason. Adam Schiff accused Donald Trump of treason. Eric Swalwell said he was a coward. To say that was weapons. weaponized intelligence against the President of the United States. There's two things that are going on here. There's a question whether Russia tried to interfere in the 2016 election, which they did. Right. And I would remind everyone that Donald Trump launched a cyber attack against the troll farm in St. Petersburg.
On this Monday, a Montreal author accused of a heinous crime. He's charged of his 9-year-old daughter. What he told police, what's known about the girl's final days. A federal cabinet minister's defense, why he says he supports immigration application of a man who Canada deemed a member of a terrorist organization. Why hundreds of thousands of the Indigenous woman from Saskatchewan bestowed with the 2025 Nelson Mandela.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A Montreal businessman is facing charges of second-degree murder and concealment of a body after his 9-year-old daughter was found dead in the U.S. The father is accused of killing her while on vacation in New York. He initially told police his roots on what we know so far.
Mr. Patrolman, do you have anything to say?
Lieutenant Bullen led away in handcuffs, accused of murdering his 9-year-old daughter Lena and trying to hide her body.
Members of the New York State Police Forest Rangers located Melina. That lead was thoroughly investigated and
border nation. On July 11th, police say they entered the U.S. legally, visiting Connecticut and New York. On July 19th, at 5:30 p.m., Melina is seen with her father on video surveillance. An hour later, she phones her mother and sounds fine. At 10 p.m., her father calls police and reports her disappearance around Lake George. Sometime in that 3.5-hour span, investigators believe she was murdered. At 10:50, Sunday, July 20th, New York State Forest Rangers find her body, the same day she was supposed to return home to her mother in Montreal. Investigators say her parents had been estranged since 2019, and that she lived with her mother full-time.
This is Daybreak here on France 24. I'm Stuart Norton. Good to have you with us. The headlines today. The World Health Organization hints out what it says have been 3 attacks on its bases in Gaza as Israeli forces push into the last major area of the enclave, so far unentered by ground forces. There's 25 countries, including France, say the war in Gaza must end now. Brazil's Supreme Court threatens to order former President Jair Bolsonaro's arrest unless his lawyers explain why he's breached last week's court order limiting his use of social media. And the death toll after Bangladesh Air Force training aircraft crashed into a school in Dhaka said to have risen now to 27. Experiencing a technical malfunction moments after takeoff.
Podcasts.
Desperate families gather outside the school in bed. Following widespread condemnation online, he's been released from jail but is set to face lesser charges.
The government announces a raft of new measures it will smash the gangs.
after small boat crossings rose by almost 50% in the first half of this year. Does anyone trust them to get a immigration?
News' Patrick Christie's put that very question as he funded people smugglers at the heart of the crisis in Calais.
You are a human trafficker, aren't you?
Are there?
Yes. Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain? Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain? So, if you have a look, just quickly, right? Reforms the party of law and order. Reform will be the party of law and order. And on this country has the city from 2029. Or whatever it be. What you very is. Just
Shuts up. John September, the close of business today.
a Colombian man is found guilty of murdering a couple and disposing of their bodies in suitcases, as police called one of their most gruesome cases.
The government launches a review into state pension age. We're debating if it's time to turn the conversation on its head and reduce the pension age.
Prince George, second in line to the throne, turns 12 today. We'll reflect on what he's been up to over the last year. And this morning, the Lionesses are one game from their third major final in a row as they take on Italy at the Euros tonight. Brentford striker, well, he's no longer Brentford striker, he's now Manchester United winger, I should say, is signed for Manchester United. That's Brian Mbumo. And Brendan McCullum told the England cricketers they were too nice in the needly. Is needly a word, by the way? I don't think so. Well,
Good evening, I'm Amna Navaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the News Hour tonight, NATO countries promise more weapons to help Ukraine defend itself after the largest aerial assaults in months.
New restrictions on student loans raise questions about education access and how borrowers can pay off existing debt.
And the conservative effort to curtail reproductive rights turns its focus toward birth control.
The more people in legislatures are willing to acknowledge that they are changing what abortion means, the more space that creates to include contraceptives in the definition of abortion.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli forces killed at least 115 Palestinians Sunday, including 92 people who died while seeking aid. In the deadliest attack, Israeli troops massacred at least 79 people at the Zikim crossing in northern Gaza, where Palestinians gathered to wait for 25 aid trucks from the UN World Food Program. In a statement, the UN agency said, quote, as the convoy approached, the surrounding crowd came under fire from Israeli tanks, snipers, and other gunfire, unquote. The head of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City said the facility was over.
See iView.
Today, Australia's 48th Parliament officially opened with student debt and childcare safety top of the government's agenda.
We should acknowledge the strength of our democracy.
People are looking towards that shining beacon that is the democratic system. Australia among 28 countries demanding an immediate ceasefire and peace deal in Gaza. Bangladesh declares a day of mourning after a military jet crashes, killing at least 27 people. A teenager charged over the stabbing death of a 70-year-old Queensland woman in a shopping centre car park pleads guilty to her murder. And calls for urgent action after a survey finds school bullying rates are higher than during the worst days of the COVID pandemic. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. New and returning politicians have been sworn in on the opening day of Australia's 48th Parliament. It's the first time MPs have convened in Canberra since the May federal election. Official proceedings began with a welcome to country ceremony before the new Parliament was declared open for business. Labor's Sue Lines has been returned as President of the Senate, while Milton Dick's been re-elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Opposition Leader Susan Lee
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, Israel expands its offensive in Gaza despite repeated appeals for an end to the war. A key hub for humanitarian efforts, Deir al-Bala, coming under fire amid warnings of widening starvation. Bangladesh in mourning following its deadliest aviation disaster in decades. At least 27 people are dead and more than 100 injured after an Air Force jet crashed into a school campus. And Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. gearing up for trade talks with Donald Trump. The U.S. says it's prioritizing quality over quantity, insisting the administration will not rush tariff deals ahead of the August deadline. Israel is expanding its military operations in Gaza. For the first time, tanks and ground troops have entered the central city of Deir al-Bala, a place that had largely been spared since the war began. The area is
Africa News. The news.
Outspoken Kenyan activist Boniface Wangi has dismissed the government's attempt to link him to anti-government protests, calling it a weak and desperate move to silence dissent. Wangi appeared in court on Monday charged with unlawful possession of ammunition, a case stemming from his alleged role in the youth-led demonstration that have gripped the country for months. Many had feared Wangi would be charged with terrorism.
There's a terrorism Ruto's heart, and Ruto knows that he's going home because Ruto is a real terrorist. So we guys are not terrorists, we're terrorist hunters. We're hunting Ruto to leave power because he's killing us and we're tired of being killed by our government. All of these kids are saying we want real change, and that's what they're protesting. And they're so brave that when they leave their homes, they don't try to missionaries because they know they might go and never come back. So you cannot come and try and put this blame of them organizing on one person. They can't steal the credit. It's them doing it by themselves. As in this court, talking about 99, that's my best case. Everyone on the streets. It has nothing to do with me. So this routine to personalize struggle for a better Kenya about a personality. It's very weak.
Demonstrators have since expanded their demands to include action against corruption and what they describe as the regime's broken promises to ordinary Kenyans. As activists prepare for fresh demonstration on August 8, Wangi made it clear the fight for a more accountable government is far from over, even as the state seeks to silence its critics through legal pressure.
Tensions are rising once again in the Horn of Africa. Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki issuing a stark warning to neighboring Ethiopia to not start another war. Relations between the two countries have been tense since Eritrea declared independence in 1993. That tension exploded into a brutal border war in 1998 to 2000, killing tens of thousands. Now the Eritrean government says the renewed friction centers on Ethiopia's push for access to the sea, a long-standing ambition for the landlocked country. In a pointed message to Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Afwerki cautioned that sheer numbers won't guarantee victory. Ethiopia's population is around 130 million, compared to Eritrea's 3.5 million. But Afwerki insists his country will not be overwhelmed. The situation is set to be closely monitored, given the region's history of instability and unresolved tensions. Facing mounting pressure from its own supporters, the Trump administration says it will urge the courts to unseal secret files tied to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Analysts say it's an attempt to end a political firestorm the White House helped to ignite.
The Jeffrey Epstein saga is continuing. The latest development comes courtesy of Attorney General Pam Bondi, who indicated in a statement that she was going to move to unseal grand jury testimony in the case. That's a pretty unusual development. Grand jury testimony, by definition, is meant to be secret, both to protect the accounts and identities of witnesses and the reputations of people who are not charged. But in this instance, the Attorney General says she's going to take that step to ask the court to do that. It's not clear when or even if any of those records might be released.
Even if the Epstein case records are made public, critics say it may not be enough. The Trump administration is under fire for failing to deliver on promises of full transparency. Adding to the scrutiny is Donald Trump's long-standing friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthy sex offender who died in prison in 2019.
Bees are vital to producing the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and other foods humans rely on. And while they're generally heat tolerant, scientists say the warming climate is putting bees at risk.
One of the most interesting things we found is that the vast majority of the species that we are looking at, as their body temperature heats up, which happens as the environment warms up, they become dehydrated. And that was sort of unexpected. And then when we looked at sort of their limits, like how much heating can they tolerate, how much dehydration can they tolerate, what we found is as they got hotter, as their body temperatures got hotter, they became close to their dehydration limits, way before they reached their overheating limits.
And when the bee's environment gets stressful, they spend their time searching for shade or water instead of pollinating. Another concern is the lack of diversity among the bees we do have.
See how the bee diversity does decline when it becomes more urban, when you have more pavement, but if you plant more flowers, it erases that decline. So it could be as simple as planting more flowers that bloom at different times of year, that provide nectar and pollen resources for the bees at different times of year. That could be the biggest solution.
Data is limited on how much climate change is contributing to pollinator decline. US government cuts to bee research programs could mean a long wait for answers.
Africa now has its own voice. This is Africa News, the only international news channel made for Africa.
Tonight, the drowning tragedy. Actor Malcolm Jamal Warner swept away by a powerful ocean current. What we're learning about the beloved star of The Cosby Show, The Resident, and so much more. Costa Rican police saying he drowned despite bystanders' efforts to rescue him and first responders trying to save his life. Fans across the country remembering him tonight. The new video of the B-52 coming too close for comfort for a Delta regional pilot, sending him into an aggressive maneuver and telling passengers over the intercom, quote, "That is not normal." The latest close call rattling flyers. Also tonight, the Bangladesh Air Force jet crashing into a school full of kids. 20 killed and more than 170 injured. What went wrong? Hunter Biden's new revelation saying his father took an Ambien before that disastrous debate performance that marked the beginning of the end of the re-election campaign. The outcry over a traffic stop that suddenly turned violent. The investigation into what happened. Eitan Pates' face was the first to appear on a milk carton when he went missing decades ago. Now, the man who confessed to his murder is ordered a new trial after being sentenced 25 to life in prison. The new flash flood threat impacting millions. Plus, in a whole new ballgame, we'll take you inside John Oliver's mammoth makeover for a minor league team. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News.
The 69 Bomb Squadron,
Another close call in the sky.
You probably saw the airplane kind of sort of coming at us.
A military plane gets too close to a commercial jetliner.
Sorry about the aggressive maneuvers. It's not normal at all.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson.
The Air Force and the FAA are investigating another possible close call involving a commercial jetliner and a military aircraft.
A Delta regional plane operated by SkyWest Airlines had to take evasive action to avoid colliding with a B-52 bomber over North Dakota.
The Delta plane en route from Minneapolis-St. Paul to Minot, North Dakota, landed safely in Minot, the captain explaining to the passengers what had just happened.
Why it happened is the question tonight. Senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve is looking in.
Good evening, on the bus. Hello, good morning everyone. It's 6 o'clock on today's show. Inside the American community that says it doesn't want blacks, Jews or gays. Plus the Secretary we'll speak to him just after Sky News reports from the American community open
it's free association.
The following says Israel must answer for killing starving children in Gaza. Call on the UK to ban arms sales. England's women are one win away from the final Euro.
Oh. I mean, yeah, she's always welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Great.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye bye.